Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you our Week 8 fantasy football waiver wire pickups. We're here to help you make all the right decisions on who you need to add to your roster and who you can drop as well and who you should avoid. Let's start this fantasy football podcast right meow. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Kyle. Justin's not here today. This is the Fantasy Football Upside. Today we are talking about our waiver wire pickups. These are the Week 8 fantasy football waiver wire pickups. These are the guys that you need to go out there and grab and get on your team possibly if you have a few needs. We'll see. It's been a little bit crazy out there. We've got COVID stuff going on. We've got guys missing. We've got Raquel Armstead, who's likely not to be back this year. And a few other guys having issues. We've got a ton of injuries that have occurred. It just seems like so many guys went down in the middle of games or right before games. It was a rough one this last week. So hopefully we can find some guys to fill in holes that you have on your roster now that you will need to have filled so you can win this week and the week after that, get you to that championship. So if you can, go ahead and drop a comment down below. We've had a lot of good comments, a lot of good questions about starts and sits, trades, all kinds of other moves. It's been a lot of fun helping people out. Hopefully we're helping you in the right direction, not into the wrong direction. But of course, it takes a little bit of luck. A few things have changed. We were talking about Tim Patrick last week, and obviously the weather went really sideways on that game and made it a really different type of game where he wasn't going to be very useful for you. As far as what we're talking about today, we're going to be dealing with the waiver wire pickups. These guys are going to be rostered. We're going to use Yahoo's rostering numbers just as our basis. And so 60% is the max that we'll talk about. So if they're rostered in 60% or less leagues, then we will talk about them. If not, they're out the window. They're not one that we're going to talk about. I'm going to mention one guy actually at some point here who is north of that 60%. If he's in your league, go grab him, obviously. Week 8's here. Hopefully you guys had a good week 7, won that game. Hopefully we were able to help you. As we always say, make sure that you go ahead and hit us up for any questions. We're always asking. Do you need assistance? So let's dive in headfirst into the shallow end and get moving here. I'm going to try to get through this fairly quickly with you here. Let's talk about running backs first. Right off the top, we've got Carlos Hyde, who is 12% rostered right now. Now, the one caveat I do want to say is that the news that's coming out right now is that Chris Carson might be coming back sooner than thought previously when he went down. It seems to be some sort of hamstring issue, hamstring tweak. I've been watching a few different, fantasy football doctor, athletic trainer people talking about the injury, the nature in which he grabbed it. It looks like it's some sort of ligament strain potentially or hamstring tweak of some kind to the muscle belly. It does not look like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. That's not to say that you can't capitalize in the moment if you need to. I personally picked up Gio Bernard late last week because he happened to be available in our league, and it saved my butt because I had Aaron Jones and he went out at the last minute and Gio Bernard came in for me. Carlos Hyde can do the same thing for you potentially this week. He's going to get picked up in whatever league you're in. I wouldn't spend even 25% of my budget on him, though, because you might only get to use him for 1 or 2 weeks. So it may not be the greatest move if you have to spend a lot to get him. So if you want him, put a bid on him. Hopefully you get him. Hopefully you don't have to overspend to get him, and then you're able to use him for a week or 2 here. And regardless of all that, he needs to be rostered right now in all leagues because Carson just got hurt, right? This could be the sign of things to come. Carson tends to get hurt and continue to get hurt or stay hurt. And it's no knock on Carson. It just seems to be the history that he has. So Carlos Hyde, as we talked this past summer, is a great rosterable player because he put up over 1,000 yards last year, and he was going into an offense that wants to run the ball first. And then he's just waiting for his opportunity. It seems to have arrived potentially. The next guy I want to talk about here is Tevin Coleman. He's 27% rostered right now, so a few people are out there paying attention. This is a sneaky pickup. I'm not seeing Tevin Coleman's name in too many spots right now. I can't really understand why. It's likely that he's going to be back this week and he's going to lead this backfield in touches going forward. Mostert just went on IR. Jeff Wilson just got hurt after a 3-touchdown day, and it was clear that he was in a significant amount of pain. So I would expect that Tevin Coleman is going to lead this backfield for no other reason than he's simply the only one who's got any experience at this point. You've got Jermichael Hasty there, and you've got JD, I think McKinnon or McKissick. I can't remember which one's out there. I think it's McKinnon. McKissick, I think, is over in Washington. So I would say Tevin Coleman's the guy. He hasn't been the guy in years, right? He hasn't been the guy in years, but this is another team that wants to run the ball all the time and let their defense help them win the game. So this is one of those guys that you need to pay attention to. I would suggest you go out there and get him. I think you can get him for a lot less than most people think, just because than you might think, just because he's not being paid attention to. The name is just not out there right now, and he is still technically on IR. So you would be adding an IR player to your roster, but he's got a 3-week window within which they need to activate him, move him onto their 53-man roster, and utilize him. They may or may not do that, but you can take that roll of the dice, and I think you'll be good here. The guy I want to mention who does not meet our maximum roster limit, he's rostered in, I believe, 63% of leagues, but it's close enough that I wanted to mention, is Chase Edmonds. I think that you need to pick him up if he's available. He appears to be the guy going forward in Arizona. They are not a run-first team like the other two teams that I've mentioned. They definitely want to pass the ball as much as possible, and there are a lot of weapons on that team. But Chase Edmonds does seem to suit or fit that offense really, really well. He seems like a guy who was geared for this, and Kenyon Drake just kind of got in the way. You might remember last year, and you can look it up if you don't remember, you could go to Player Profiler and check out Chase Edmonds' weekly breakdown from 2019 season. And what you will see is that the week before Kenyon Drake was traded for, Chase Edmonds blew up big time. Now, Arizona didn't necessarily believe that he was the guy, and so they went ahead and traded for Kenyon Drake, but Kenyon Drake has proven that he's not the guy, and he's gotten hurt now. So Chase Edmonds, he's, for better or worse, he is the guy going forward, because there is nobody on the market, it looks like right now. They missed Le'Veon Bell by about a week, right? That would have been a great move for Bell there. But unfortunately, it is what it is. Chase Edmonds is the guy. All right, let's move on here to wide receiver. I've got 4 names here for you of varying rostered positions here. We've got Brandon Aiyuk. He is rostered in 49% of leagues right now. Yesterday or Sunday, he went for 7 targets, 6 catches, 115 yards. He led the team in targets and catches. This is not an overwhelming pass offense. So don't run out there and spend a ton of money on him if you have a fab budget that you're working with. That's redundant, not fab budget. If you have fab money that you're working with, don't go out and blow it on this guy, because this offense is not going to sustain a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football consistently enough for you to go out there and spend a ton on him. So you need to think of that practicality of the way that you're utilizing your fab money. And while Aiyuk is a great player, most likely going to put up a lot of really, really good days, don't spend more on him than you would spend on maybe a wide receiver 3, because he's just not going to be able to give you wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 weeks consistently enough to have spent that kind of money. He could be the lead guy going forward, and here's why. Deebo is expected to miss at least the next 2 weeks. He comes right back and gets hurt. It's unfortunate, but it seems to be the way that 2020 is working for a lot of guys out there this year. And Deebo is one of those guys. And you know that we love Deebo. We have this drop for him. Deebo! I mean, we spent the time to actually make that thing, guys. So obviously we like Deebo, but Brandon Aiyuk is a beast. He is an absolute beast, and he's going to be solid, but don't spend more than you would on a wide receiver 3. Sterling Shepard is our next guy. He is 29% rostered. This past weekend, he went 8 targets, 6 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. That was his first week back, guys, from being injured, from being out for several weeks. He's got a great schedule the rest of the way. So this is one where I actually would start to spend a little bit more, because he's got a great schedule. I think he's the clear lead wide receiver going forward on this team. While Slayton is the flash on that team, his name has got that flash cachet because he definitely splashed last year. He's really not performed at the same level this year. And it's partly because he weathered the storm of the difficult schedule that they had early on, and his schedule opens up in the second half. But Sterling Shepard is a volume hog in that offense, and he and Daniel Jones, they get along swimmingly. The next name I've got for you is Jalen Reagor. He's only 14% rostered right now, and that's very, very obvious why. He's a rookie. He was injured. He's been out for 5 weeks right now, I think, and he's going to be possibly on the active roster here for week 8. He has been activated off of IR, but that does not mean he's been added to the 53-man roster just yet. So you need to keep your eye on that, because he has a 21-day practice window in which the team either has to activate him to the 53-man roster and clear space for him, or they have to put him back on IR and deactivate him for the rest of the season. So it's one or the other. It's a 21-day window. This is your chance to grab him. If you're in a keeper league or you're in a dynasty league, Reagor is somebody that you need to make a big bet on. And that's because the dude is just fast, and he was actually starting to catch on really decently well when he went down. He got 4 targets in both of the first 2 weeks that he played in. Those targets came against really good defenses, actually, and he was putting up 40 to 50 plus yards in both of those instances. The one caveat I have here, and first of all, let me talk about his injury. His injury was to his thumb. It is not an injury that's going to slow him down, and it's not necessarily an injury that's going to do anything hampering him running his routes or getting clean cuts, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's going to maybe hamper his catching ability, but I don't think they would have brought him back if he wasn't ready to do that. It is what he's paid to do, obviously, right? But the caveat that I really do have with him is that Travis Fulgham has shown that he has the reason to be there. He has put up and he's made everybody shut up. And Carson Wentz is having a resurgence as a result of Fulgham being available. I think that Jalen Reagor alters the dimension of that team as well as Fulgham. And I think it makes this team a much, much better offense to be involved in fantasy football now. So I would still stick to those two guys going forward, though. I would stick with Reagor and I would stick with Fulgham other in the passing game, other than maybe Boston Scott, but he's more of a spot start, it appears, at this point. All right, I got one more wide receiver for you. He's on the higher end of the rostered, and that is Christian Kirk at 55% rostered right now. This one is a little bit of a potential red herring. So be careful with Christian Kirk. Don't expect too much and don't pay up too much. Okay. He's been in the league now. I think this is his 3rd season, right? He's going in the opposite direction of Michael Gallup, it appears right now, but I don't know that that's going to last. He appears to be very touchdown dependent at the moment. He's had 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He's had 5 in the last 4 weeks. Those 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks came 2 touchdowns one week, 2 touchdowns the next week. But in both instances, he did not have a ton of yards. So this is a little bit like Mike Evans this season, and it's not a great scenario in that you're not really going to have that base. You're not going to have a lot of opportunity as a result. His targets have been increasing. His yards have been increasing. And so that is a good thing to see. It appears that maybe Cliff Kingsbury finally realized that he's playing Christian Kirk out of position, that he is not a guy who's going to beat the defense down the field. He's somebody that you have to put in the slot and you have to let him run his routes, bend routes, curl them, turn away from the defense and throw it to the shoulder that's the opposite of the defense. Treat him like Allen Robinson, and he could be a really good wide receiver in this league. He really can. And so I think they finally figured out that he's more like Larry Fitzgerald than he is like DeAndre Hopkins. So let DeAndre Hopkins burn it down the field. Let Andy Isabella do that as well. And then let Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald work down the middle, work down the seams, that sort of stuff. It's kind of like how Evans and Godwin were last year, should be how Hopkins and Kirk are this year. And I think Kingsbury's finally figured that out in his play calling. And I think that Kyler's finally starting to see Kirk when his windows for passing are open. So that's somebody to go spend on, but don't spend a ton on him just because he is very touchdown dependent at the moment. Unless you start seeing his yardage spike, his opportunity spike, he's just not going to be able to maintain that touchdown level, especially with DeAndre Hopkins, future Hall of Famer DeAndre Hopkins on the team at the same time. And decently healthy. Hopkins is banged up, guys. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He's turning into Julio a little bit here. Okay, so next guy that we've got, we're going to move on to tight ends here. I've got one tight end for you, and then I've also got one QB. And both of these moves are ones that I think you really, really need to think through and consider greatly, because these could change the outcome of your season for you. And the first one is Trey Burton. Right now, tight end is an absolute wasteland. And for some reason, Trey Burton is only rostered in 21% of leagues in Yahoo. So if you have Trey Burton available, listen up. He's averaging nearly 6 targets a game over the last 3 weeks before the bye. He had 6 targets, 5 targets, and 6 targets. And he's catching a ton of those. This offense might have finally decided that going through the tight end is the method for winning their games, the way that they can actually score. And it appears that Burton is the only guy that they are focused on when it comes to the tight end set. They've got a couple other guys who are solid, who are going to be able to do good things for them, but they are not targets down the field in the same way that Burton is. Burton is also worked with Frank Reich in the past. That's where the Philly special comes from there, guys, is Frank Reich and Trey Burton. They were both out in Philly and they helped win that Super Bowl. I think that Trey Burton is a guy that if you're sleeping on him, you're going to get burned by that. He's coming off the bye right now. And so a lot of people aren't going to see him coming. So this is a chance for you to go in and maybe not, blow your whole budget and pick this guy up. It's somebody I would consider spending a decently high waiver priority pick for. Because I think that it could potentially shore up a position of need for most teams this season. Outside of 4, maybe 5 guys in tight end this year, there has not been any consistency or great value. So let's move on here to our last guy, and that is the QB, and that's Derek Carr this week, guys. He is 29% rostered. Last week I didn't name a QB. I didn't have anybody that I liked, but Derek Carr is getting it done. And for whatever reason, he's not getting rostered. It's surprising to me. And I think I can explain why. So look, he's putting up roughly 300 yards per game and 2+ TDs a game. There are games where he's getting 3. I don't know that he's gotten 4 this season just yet. Let me double check here really quickly. No, he's not had a week where he's put up 4, but here's his TD totals. Week 1, he had 1. And then he went 3, 2, 2, 3, 2. That is solid. And in every instance, he's been north of 250 yards. He's gotten as high as 347. He's hovering somewhere just shy of 300 yards a week. And that is phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal right now, considering that he's been running through the toughest part of his schedule, by far the toughest run of his schedule. And now it opens up. The rest of the way is nearly clean, guys. He's got 1, maybe 2 bad matchups. Championship week, do not rely on him. That is not going to get it done for you, okay? Because he's going to be facing Miami, and Miami has proven very difficult for QBs to score on. I think it's partly because they don't defend the run extremely well, but QBs are not doing well against Miami, and that's who he sees in Week 16 in your championship week. So don't rely on him for that week, but he could carry you to the promised land. Right now, his toughest matchups are KC, Indy, and Miami. The rest of the way, it is beautiful. It isn't even like middle of the road defenses. It's bottom dwellers, guys, absolute bottom. So Derek Carr, Derek Henry too, but Derek Carr should do well for you. Okay. So he's getting, his young receivers are getting healthy. He's going to build rapport with them. He's going to get on the same page with them. This is about the point at which Darren Waller started to blow up last year. I'm not saying that he's going to, but it could be that he just needs to warm up. And that's where we are right now, is at that point where he warmed up last year. As of right now, Derek Carr has been a back-end QB1, high-end QB2. I would expect him to solidly be a QB1 the rest of the way, other than the weeks that he plays Kansas City, Indianapolis, and Miami. Those are the weeks I would expect to see him maybe sneak into the back end of QB1, hopefully still carry you a QB2 week. But if you're doing what we talked about earlier this year, which is that you're carrying 2 QBs in this one crazy season, so that you can account for the problems that arise late in weeks when they start moving the schedule around potentially, or canceling games if it comes to it because of COVID concerns, you need to be carrying 2 QBs, one that maybe you're streaming and one that you're not. Derek Carr could be a guy that maybe you're not streaming. If you found yourself with Dak Prescott going down and you still haven't solved that problem, Derek Carr, go run and get him. He's going to do well going forward. Okay. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's waiver wire episode. We might drop a few extras into our other episodes later on this week. We'll hit you up next time with our Thursday night breakdown, and then we'll get into the remaining breakdowns. Actually, we may not do Thursday night breakdown. We might do starters, streamers, and fades. I can't remember the order exactly. It's probably Thursday night and then starter, streamers, and fades, and then our matchups for the 2 days following that. That should be good. I'm going to go ahead and throw onto the screen right now the waiver wire episode from last week so that you have some additional names that you should consider as well. We had a couple good ones that we named there. We talked about JaMychal Hasty. We talked about Tim Patrick. Trey Burton was in there last week as well, guys. So make sure you run out there and check that one out. Make sure you make some good bids. If you got any questions, feel free to hit us up with a comment down below. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. Thanks for being a fan of The Upside. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.